Hello again, everyone. I know there'll be still a few people trickling in, but I thought we would get started on the presentation anyway. So you're here in this breakout session, Trust Before the First Conversation, building digital visibility, credibility, and reach. One of the biggest changes in consumer behavior over the last few years is that clients now form an opinion about your business long before they ever contact you. They search your name, they read reviews, they visit your website, they check social media. Increasingly, they may even ask AI tools for recommendations or information about brokers in the area. Today's session is about understanding what borrowers see when they look you up online and what signals influence trust and what practical steps brokers can take to improve their visibility, their credibility, and their reach. I would firstly like to introduce Colm MacGowan from 80/20 Digital, who's going to uncomplicate some of the brand digital sense, how stronger brands are easier for AI to trust, cite, and recommend, and more to improve your reach. So please welcome to the stage, Colm.
Now, let me get have we got the, no, hang on, let me see. There we go. All right. Thank you very much indeed for that introduction, Jacqui. Really appreciate it. And thanks also to Dan Walsh from the MFAA for inviting me to speak here today. Colm MacGowan is my name. I'm the founder and CEO of 80/20 Digital. And for almost 30 years, I've spent my career helping small to medium service-based businesses grow profitably, predictably, and sustainably through lead generation. Now, my name is a funny one for Australians. They find it a little bit hard to pronounce sometimes. So if you want to come and ask a few questions after the presentation, please do so. But I'll give you a little trick to remembering my name. It's spelled C-O-L-M, but it's pronounced column like a newspaper column. Or if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, just say Gollum and put a C at the start. All right, you all laughed. ChatGPT told me you would. All right, excellent. Today, folks, we are talking about why AI is changing how mortgage brokers get found, trusted, and chosen. Because AI has changed the lead generation landscape forever. Over the past 2 decades, Google was the only game in town. If your mortgage broking business was found by somebody, 92% of people used Google to find it. The aim of digital marketing was very simple. Be found at the top of the page, capture the click, generate the inquiry, and close the sale. Grow your business profitably, predictably, and sustainably. But something has changed. Something has changed fundamentally. The lead generation landscape is completely different now. ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and AI overviews are changing how mortgage brokers are being found, trusted, and chosen. To add a little bit of context to today's presentation, we first of all need to understand what's happening with Google. 8.5 billion searches per day take place on Google. That's an astronomical number. And by comparison, ChatGPT has 2.5 billion prompts per day. For those who work with Claude, there's about 900 million searches per day on Claude. So does that mean we're suddenly going to forget about Google and it's just going to disappear? No, it does not. If your business relies on Google for lead generation, well, rest assured, it's still going to be around for an awfully long time to come. Google has responded to ChatGPT and Claude with Gemini. It's very good if you use it. It has also responded with AI overviews. Now, I'm sure you don't need me to describe what an AI overview is. You've seen it, but it is changing the way things are being done, and it's changing fast. We know that 37% of consumers now start their research on AI platforms instead of Google. And among Gen Z and millennials, that's first home buyers to you, 74% reported they use AI to hunt for information. But it's perhaps this statistic that really underlines just how much things are changing. Over 60% of searches on Google do not end in a click. So why is that? What's happening? Well, that's where the AI overviews come in. Google is consciously and deliberately moving searchers into the AI overviews so they can continue their process of qualification instead of sending traffic out to 10 blue links, 10 websites. We also know that AI converts traffic to sales at a much higher rate. One study earlier on this year found that ChatGPT inquiries convert to sales 9 times higher than traditional organic search. That is huge. And what we have, folks, is a completely different customer journey. It says new on the slide, but it's not actually that new. This is already happening, and it's been happening for about 2 years now. So let's go through the journey. It starts with an AI conversation. Nobody puts mortgage broker Melbourne into ChatGPT. That's something that you do on Google. So what happens with AI? People have deeply personal relationships with ChatGPT. Anybody here have a deeply personal relationship with ChatGPT? You probably do. You chat away about lots of things. But that AI conversation might look something like this. Hey, Chat, can you recommend? Or, hey, Chat, I'm an electrician and I'm self-employed and I have an investment property and I live in the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne. And I want a mortgage broker that's got at least 55-star reviews. And he has to, or she has to, have a lot of experience dealing with tradespeople. And on it goes. That's what we call conversational search. And that is a deep qualification process. What happens then is that your prospective mortgage, your prospective customer, they switch gears and they go to Google, and then they're going to check out your social media, your Google reviews, and any social evidence that they can find that will validate the recommendation that has come from AI. Only then will they visit your website, and then you get the inquiry. It's a completely different customer journey. Keywords have changed to conversations. And rankings have changed to recommendations. If Google is the library, AI is the librarian. And I want you to think about it like this. When you walk into a library, you see all these books on a shelf. And you go and you browse the books yourself. That's Google. AI is like the librarian that walks over to you and asks you what genre you're interested in reading. And then it takes you over to the bookshelf and it takes a book from the shelf and hands it to you directly and says, read this. That's AI. Your mortgage broking business needs to be that book. Ultimately, AI is asking, which brand can I trust? And we must ask the question, why are some mortgage brokers getting recommended by AI and others are not? Well, if you'll permit me, we're going to do an audience participation exercise. You all look like good sports to me. So can we have some hands up if you actively ask customers for Google reviews? And so should be almost everybody in the room. Keep your hand up if you have testimonials or case studies on your website. Again, a pretty easy one. Keep your hand up if you are active on LinkedIn or social media. And if you're wishing people a happy Friday, you can put your hand down now. All right. When I'm talking about social media, I'm talking about educating your prospects, educate your customers, differentiating your brand. Keep your hand up if you have authentic photos of yourself and your team on your website. Excellent. There's probably nothing more important than authenticity in service-based marketing. Keep your hand up if you regularly publish blogs or articles on your site or even somebody else's. Okay? Still got a lot of hands up. Keep your hand up if your website clearly explains who you help. And by that, I mean you have a dedicated page to say that you help lawyers, or you help nurses, or you help doctors, or you help the self-employed or investors. Keep your hand up if your website has location pages. And by that, I mean a dedicated page for each suburb that you service. Or it might be a region, for example, Bayside in Melbourne, or say the Northern Beaches in Sydney. Those location pages are super important for AI to understand where you service. Now keep your hand up if you have FAQs on your website. Hard to see with the lights. You can put 2 hands up if you've got FAQs on every page of your website. Keep your hand up if you appear in a listicle. Listicles are those articles that appear on a third-party website that says you are the best of mortgage brokers in Melbourne or Sydney or Brisbane, or it's a top 20 list or a top 30 list. You know what I'm talking about if you're on one of these. So if you are on a listicle, keep your hand up. We're into the third round now. Keep your hand up if you've been mentioned in the media or by industry organizations. I think you can also, there's one lady here who's doing very well with all of these, and a few more down the back. Keep your hand up if you've won industry awards. And you can put your hand back up if you've won industry awards, but you failed on a couple of the other ones. All right. Industry awards, folks, are super important. It means that you're operating at the top of your game. And in terms of social evidence, it's absolutely critical, not just for converting your customers, but also for AI. Keep your hand up if you've already received inquiries from ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini. Let me see. We have a few people here up the front. Anybody else down the back? All right. There's a few people in the room. Congratulations to you all. You've just won the World Cup of Mortgage Broking. But far more importantly, you have succeeded in getting AI to trust your brand. Congratulations to you. This is a visual representation, folks, of the exercise that we've just gone through. AI is looking at every part of your digital footprint around the web. It's not just looking at your website. It's looking at your Google business profile, the content that you write, the awards that you've won, the case studies, the social media, directories, LinkedIn, media mentions, and your reviews. AI sees all of it. And if you want to be recommended by AI, you've got to provide evidence that your brand is trustworthy and worth recommending. And so to a term that has evolved. I'm sure all of you have heard the term search engine optimization. Well, the key difference with AI is that it is now search everywhere optimization. AI is asking, which brand can I trust? You see, you can say that you are the best mortgage broker in Melbourne or Sydney on your website, but AI says, prove it. Brand trust is your competitive advantage. And there's something else that AI is looking for, and that is specificity. It's asking you not to be a generic choice. It's asking you to be a distinct solution. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's say, for example, there are 5 mortgage brokers, and all 5 of them have Mortgage Broker Melbourne on their website. All 5 are using stock shots. And all 5 have used ChatGPT to generate the content. And there is nothing to differentiate those brands. One looks the same as the other. Why would AI recommend you? We haven't done enough there, folks, to get recommended. It's as simple as that. But let's say on your website, you say that you specialize in high net worth individuals. You work with entrepreneurs. You've got 2 or 3 different companies. They've got an SMSF. They've got a family trust. And you service the area that they live in, which is where they want to be serviced. Now you have given AI a reason to recommend your business. What I'm asking you to think about here today is to niche down, to specialize, to bring whatever it is that makes your business unique to the fore and express it in words and images and video. Don't be a generic solution, don't be a generic choice, be a distinct solution. Or in other words, don't be another apple, be the orange. Brand, folks, is the new SEO. And before I wrap up, I promised Dan that I would go through this alphabet soup of acronyms that has come with AI. And I know what you're thinking, SEO, AEO, GEO, LLMO, AIO. It sounds like old MacDonald had a farm, EIEIO. Except old MacDonald now has Claude and he's built himself a robot cow, and that's milking the cows. We'll go through them one by one, just very briefly. SEO, you all know, search engine optimization, now morphing into search everywhere optimization. AEO is answer engine optimization. Help AI find answers that it is looking for very specifically in your content. GEO is generative engine optimization. Help AI understand your brand across the entire web. And LLMO, large language model optimization. Just to be very specific, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, they're not search engines. They are large language models. That's why you get the term LLMO. And AIO is simply AI optimization. It's the umbrella term for what we're talking about today. You don't need to remember what each of these acronyms means. You just need to understand what it means for your business. They all mean more or less the same thing. There are subtle nuances between each, but it's not really that important. What is important is that you understand that AI has not changed the fundamentals of marketing. It just made trusted brands more visible. So, in summary, your brand should be trustworthy, specific, consistent, and everywhere. And that's it from me, folks. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Colm, thank you so much. Honestly, the slide there that really stood out for me, there's Google is the library and AI is the librarian. There's so much clarity around that and to be a distinct solution. So thank you. But I'll have you stay on stage because we're going to now have a panel with brokers that are actually building trust and generating business through digital channels themselves. They're ninjas and weapons in what they're doing. So I'd like to invite Kate from K.financeco to the stage, as well as Mark from Domayne onto the stage. And we're going to sit down and have a panel discussion. It's actually nice to take a seat now, but we're going to get comfortable and ask some pretty big questions. And this will be for all 3 of you, but I'd love to start with you, Kate. Kate, before a client ever picks up the phone, what do you think they're looking at online and what influences whether they decide to contact you?
Well, I think Colm did a fantastic job of showing us all the places that they can look online, and I'm already writing down a couple of things that I'm going to be doing. Thank you, Colm. But genuinely, I think it depends on the client that you serve. To your point, niching down, I work almost exclusively with self-employed clients. They look in very different places for trust than, say, a first home buyer might look. So first home buyers are very active on ChatGPT and doing their deep research and all of that sort of stuff. Self-employed clients are very, very different. And so where I really focus is on social media, LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook specifically, and my website. People don't look at me and go, she's a commercial broker. I don't look like the typical commercial broker, and nor does my website. So in terms of whether, what all of that looks like for them and whether they are going to contact me, is Kate speaking to me? Does she understand me? Is what she's saying, do I see myself sitting in the room and she's talking back at me? So anything that I'm putting out there, it's always, am I telling my clients something that ChatGPT can't? Am I making them feel welcome and wanting to invite them into the conversation? And am I making them feel something? If I can succeed at those three things, I'm more likely to get a call or a DM or a whatever.
And Mark?
Yes. I suppose for us, like we've got a pretty big online and digital presence. We also work pretty closely with a lot of volume builders within our space. For us, having an online presence is really important. So we rely heavily on a customer experience, and obviously our customers speaking to that experience and leaving things like Google reviews or product review online, I think is really important. I suppose where we position ourselves within our industry is similar to yourself, would be we're experts in the space that we operate, which is construction finance. And I think that particular space could be, no different to self-employed customers. It could be a little bit convoluted, could be a little bit confusing. And I think the clients that we do work with are very thirsty for information and knowledge. So how do we make that process as simple as possible for them to give them a positive experience?
Colm, have you got anything different to add to that?
No, not really. I guess, no, not really. I think what the guys have said is about right. I think it's, ultimately it's about building trust in the brand and be wherever your customers are hanging out. So to Kate's point, if you want to reach first home buyers, you need to be on TikTok. You need to be on Instagram. That may sound absolutely mad to somebody who's, got gray hair like me, because I would never do that. That's fine. But if you want to reach that audience, you need to be where your audience is hanging out. It's really important.
Well, in saying being where your audience is hanging out, I've already noticed a question come up with a like there. It's about Facebook. Let's explore that for a little bit. Is Facebook as relevant as all of the other platforms? And do you suggest investing in that as a place to have some visibility?
Look, absolutely. So Facebook is highly relevant for an older demographic. I mean, it sounds funny because probably, if you're as old as I am, you remember when Facebook came out, but that's really where all the grandparents are hanging out now. And if you want to reach wealthier and older clients, well, Facebook is a perfectly valid way to go. And I should point out as well that AI uses Instagram. So ChatGPT will use Instagram and Facebook as a source material for recommendations. And that's different to how search engine optimization used to work. That's completely different. Now, AI will even look to Reddit, for example. So Facebook is absolutely valid, and lead generation and organic social media is perfectly valid for Facebook, absolutely.
Thanks. So the next question is, if a borrower spends 5 minutes researching a broker online, what are the strongest trust signals they're likely to notice? And we'll stay with you, Colin, for this one first, and then we'll grab your...
Yeah, location, reviews. That's the number one thing that you can do for your business, regardless of what size it is. That's the first thing that they can do. But there's other credibility signals that I touched on in the presentation. Awards are huge. They are absolutely massive. It's a huge trust signal, not just for AI, but also for your customers. I would also say that mentions in the media are really important as well, and making sure that you appear on industry association websites as well. All of those kinds of things make a huge difference to the credibility of your brand.
Well, when you were talking about keep your hand up, and there was about awards, there was a couple of people in the front that had won awards and just did this. And I'm thinking, you shouldn't be just doing this. If that's actually, you should be really celebrating those, and definitely lead with that.
Absolutely. It's so important, and it makes a big difference to your business when you win them.
Kate?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with all of that. But I also think it's important to have an opinion on something, particularly when we're niching down. Now, in the last couple of months, or since the 12th of May, I've never been busier talking to clients about the budget and my opinions on that. You can have a look at my social media if you would like to understand what they are. But being a trusted advisor means that people look to us for our opinion on something. Now, that's not to say that everyone's going to agree with our opinion, but it might open the conversation for engagement around that, but also just strengthens your credibility even further. Understanding what the budget, and that's just an example, but understanding what happened in the budget, what that means for my clients, because what it means for first home buyers is very different to what it means for self-employed clients, the construction industry, all the rest of it. So have an opinion on certain things that impact our clients in our industry. That has a huge impact on being able to build our credibility.
And Mark, within your industry?
Yeah, look, I think once again, like similar to Com's points, I think online reviews are really important. And we don't just rely on the one channel. So we rely heavily on Google. I find that that helps a lot with a lot of local sort of lead generation, but we also are pretty prominent on product review as well. So I think having those multiple sort of channels in terms of customer reviews is really important. I think every client expects you to tell them how good you are, but I think when a customer speaks to that experience about how positive it was, how seamless it was, I think that adds a lot of value. To the point on awards as well, like we were fortunate enough, it feels like a bit of a shameless plug, but we won Best Customer Service with the MFAA not too long ago.
Hey, celebrate that.
Um, but I think once again, like, one of the standout points as a brokerage, in my view, is customer service and customer experience. And I think that particular award was very important for us to win because that is the main point of difference with a lot of brokerages, right? It's the service delivery that you provide. And if the customers are experiencing that, I think that really builds a lot of brand credibility.
So, Colm, most of us here, we've got an understanding and we've experienced Google search. But today, borrowers are discovering businesses through social media, YouTube, and increasingly AI generated search results. How is that discoverability changing?
Well, it's changing in the sense that the customer journey has changed. It's changed because of those conversational searches that I was talking about in the presentation. And it's just that deep level of qualification. So people spend seconds on Google qualifying mortgage brokers. So they will spend seconds, mortgage broker Melbourne, mortgage broker Southeast Suburbs, or whatever the search is. But that deep level qualification that they do on AI, that makes a huge, huge difference because by the time they've actually contacted you, they're already qualified. All they're actually looking for is validation that they've made the right choice. So it's a much easier sale. And that's why we see inquiries from AI converting into sales at a much, much higher rate than traditional organic search.
And Mark, have you noticed how those changes and how clients are finding you?
I think once again, like, it's really important not to rely on the one channel. I think you need to be prominent on all channels. So once again, we spoke about Google, we spoke about having a prominent website. I think one thing that I've been really, I suppose, reluctant to do is video content, but I think that's probably building the most amount of engagement as well. So I've been making more of an effort to do that. Yeah, for sure.
And Kate?
Yeah, I'm okay with video content, Mark. And genuinely, I don't overthink it. There's a lot of talk. People find social media really, really overwhelming, and I get it. But quite often, my videos will be: I'm sitting in the car. I'm 5 minutes early for picking my school up from kids, and I've got an opinion about something ridiculous that the Albanese government has released that day, and I film a reel and I post it, and I don't overthink it. I think people are looking. They've got a very short attention span. They're making these decisions very, very quickly as to whether they trust you and want to engage with you. So that my website's yellow. It's bright yellow on purpose. My videos are very, very quick on purpose. We're all in this speed digital age. We've got a very short time frame in order to be able to build that initial brick of trust and credibility. So having that across multiple digital channels, really, really important to your point.
Well, I think you're the perfect person to start with this next question because it is about, honestly, what type of content. So many brokers know they should create content, but it's a struggle to know what to produce. Well, content actually builds credibility rather than simply generating noise. So we've gone with short and sharp and bright. Can you extend on that?
Absolutely. So, number one, you've got to know who you're talking to. You always have to, before you're recording anything or before you're putting any kind of content out, who are you speaking to? Otherwise, it is just going to be generic noise. If you haven't thought, I'm going to speak to the 40-year-old tradie that you were talking about before, the electrician who's searching for me, like that's who I'm talking to. So what does he need to know today?
Yeah.
He needs to know that, cash flow is really tight because super payday's coming out and blah, 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 blah. All that, you can't pass on merchant costs, all of that sort of stuff. I'm gonna start talking to clients. Well, these are things that we can help with. I understand the challenges you're going through. This is how I can help. Now, that's going to look very different for a first home buyer, right? A first home buyer may need some deep, deep, deep education of what's the difference between redraw and an offset. That's a very different piece of content and education. And hence why understanding who your customer is, number one, is so, so, so important. But then also, just have fun with it. Think about what we do day in, day out, the conversations that we have, whether it's with clients, whether it's with BDMs, whether it's with lenders, whether it's with your mum, whether it's whoever it is, there's something in your day that someone will want to hear about it. And don't overthink it. Record it, post it. What's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen?
And Mark, your content?
I think no one really wants to be sold, right? They want to be educated. And I suppose like a lot of people do research online, but I think it can have a lot of conflicting information. So providing a lot of clarity in terms of how the process works, how you can sort of benefit them. Once again, we work very closely with the construction industry. So we deal a lot with first home buyers. They don't really understand how the first home grant can work, how the stamp duty exemptions work, what guarantee schemes are available. So just speaking to that and educating them on how the logistics behind that will work and how you can actually leverage these grants to get into a home sooner rather than later, I think that's really important. So to answer your question, I think educate and provide solutions.
Yeah, Colm.
And we'll just add to that as well. So I'm loving what you're saying here, Kate. I think this is terrific. So it's really important to have an opinion. I'm really glad that you raised this. So when you're working with your brand voice, making yourself distinct from everybody else is so important. Don't be wallpaper. It's not a bad thing to have a really strong brand voice. And it's also what AI is looking for. So when you're writing blogs, for example, do not turn to ChatGPT and ask it just to generate some, very generic content. That is the worst thing that you can do. But if you spend some time and effort investing in your content and giving yourself a really strong, distinctive brand voice, that will pay dividends for you. So always do that. So I'm looking forward to your blogs.
Oh, thank you. Kate, it sounds like you're being your authentic self, which is what people really are drawn to.
Yes.
In all of this noise, people are drawn to the authentic self. And then
The one thing that AI can never, ever, ever replace
Cannot.
you.
Cannot
Ever.
replace you.
So double down on you.
Yes.
And I feel like I'm going to follow you later. I'm going to feel like that what I see online is what I had today sitting on the stage, which I think is great.
Sometimes I get a bit shouty, Jacqui, sorry.
That's okay. I'm shouty too. Now, I just want to keep moving along here. So let's talk about the social proof though. Reviews are often one of the first things consumers look at. What strategies have worked for you in building reviews and testimonials? We'll start with you, Mark.
Yeah, I think, look, in my view, like the expectation is that you deliver a 5-star service. I think when clients come to you, they expect that you go above and beyond. I think you really need to have a bit of a point of difference when you are sort of working with a particular customer. And I think like I'd rather over-service than under-service, obviously. But I think once again, we do advertise our product review. We do advertise our Google sort of scoring within our email signatures. Just make them aware that obviously these things are really important. And I think like if you do deliver a over and above customer service and experience, that they're more likely to leave that. So just letting them know that obviously these things are important to you and your business and your growth. I think by default, they'll just leave a positive experience, so a review once they've settled the transaction with you. But I think as a count, we're probably on about 1,300 reviews on product review and about almost 700 on Google. So I think, we're sort of at a point where we're, I suppose, larger scale, and by default, we're getting more and more lead generation as time goes on.
Look, while we're on the topic, I'm just going to flick to my one of the questions here, and I did want to raise it now because it works in what we're talking about. What if my reputation was damaged? What steps would I take to rebuild that trust? And I think there's some of us have we've been there, or there's been a very unfair review that's left. Can you just give a couple of pointers to that?
Me?
Yeah, sure. And then
Look, it's not to say like every single one of our customers had a good experience. I suppose with the ones that have had a negative experience, I would be very quick to sort of pick up the phone and ask where we sort of went wrong. I do my very best to sort of rectify that. And if there's any type of thing that, anything that we can do to actually sort of rectify that negative experience, I try to solve it with that particular customer first and foremost. But I think once again, those reviews tend to sort of stay online for a very long time. So to answer your question, I try to resolve with that customer, but then obviously I'll take that as a learning experience moving forward to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I wouldn't add anything too differently to that, Mark. I think it's, facing into it head on is the only way to do it. Shying away from anything like that is only going to cause further damage. But then to your point, Mark, actually putting the only mistake you make is one you don't learn from. There's some wisdom from my grandfather. And so, anything that happens, we can take it and go, well, okay, there's been a process breakdown. There's been a relationship breakdown. There's been something that has happened in my business that has caused for this negative customer experience. What can I do to avoid that moving forward? So face into it as you did, and then look at your processes to see how you can avoid that happening again.
And Colm, this is specifically for you. How can brokers use reviews and testimonials effectively while remaining professional and compliant?
Well, I think there's different types of reviews. And when we think of reviews, we think of Google reviews, but they're not the only type of review that we can have. So there's testimonials and there's case studies that you can have on your website. You can also have reviews on a third-party website. So you mentioned, Mark, you were mentioning that you're on Product Choice. So like and from an AI perspective, those reviews on a third-party website are even more important. One of the things that we encourage our clients to do is to get video testimonials from their clients, and that is so powerful. So if a picture tells 1,000 words, a video will tell 1,000,000. There is nothing more powerful than having your customer be your best advocate and say, these people were absolutely fantastic at what they did, and they solved this problem for me, and they are just absolutely glowing with praise for you. That is the most powerful kind of review you can get. And once it's been filmed and it's up on your website, that's very hard to argue with.
So would that be one of your top 3 things? Because my next question to you would be, if a broker went back to their business tomorrow and you can improve just 3 things on the website, what would you prioritize? Just 3 things.
3 things that I would prioritize: strong call to action, okay, authentic photography, okay, and make sure that your reviews are really, really clear on the website, whether it's videos or it's just written testimonials. Those 3 things.
And to Mark and Kate, which web improvements had made the biggest impact on your inquiry quality and conversion?
Yeah, I think to Colm's point, I think having a strong call to action within your landing page is really important. Being accessible, so things like Calendly or online booking, I think is really important as well. And not too much clutter. I think just simplify your landing page in particular, just make it clean, easy. Having blogs, but making sure that obviously they're not sort of, too much on the prominent page. Like make sure there's a section where people can find them, but it's not overwhelming when they first get there.
Mine was, I mentioned before that my website is yellow. That was quite deliberate because when I only started my business 12 months ago, and I think, I mean, zero shade when I say this, but every single mortgage broker's website is either blue or green. And I was like, I am going to be completely different. Feel free to look on my website. It's quite deliberately ridiculous because it grabs people's attention like that. And they know it either deters the people who ordinarily aren't going to be attracted to me and that I would want to work with anyway, but it really draws in the people that go, oh, how refreshing.
So you're not being the orange, you're being the yellow.
I am being the yellow. I'm the yellow orange. Is that a thing?
Excellent. Yeah. Excellent.
So we have a final question, and we'll have a couple of minutes for some questions too. So while you're thinking about there, I'd urge you to jump online and in the app and ask a couple of questions. But in the immediate next week, because a lot of these changes can take time and reviews over a long period of time. We're talking about, it could be weeks, months of that, but immediate. So to each of you, which practical action would you suggest to our audience to be able to go away next week to strengthen their digital visibility and credibility? Just one thing they can do next week that could get them already improving.
One thing, there's a lot of bad websites out there. Really, really bad websites. Build yourself a professionally designed website. Spend the money, get it done, make sure it's clean, simple, with great user experience, and it works perfectly on mobile because the vast majority of your customers are going to be on mobile, not desktop. So get that done. It's the cornerstone of your digital marketing.
Colm? Mark, sorry.
I think one thing that has really helped us would be more video content. I think yeah, I would say video content. There's a lot more engagement with that. It is almost immediate as well. If you want a little bit more exposure, you can always boost that. So for me, video content would be the answer.
Of yourself? Like,
I think within our business, like we've got multiple people, so having a variety of different brokers within the business, I think is really important. Yes, we've got a brand, we've got individual brokers. I think having each and every one of them sort of stand out on their own within the business is really important.
I was going to say the same thing, Mark. Pick up the damn phone and take some videos and just post it and see what happens. Like I look back at 12 months ago and the stuff I used to post 12 months ago, and I want to vomit on it. But what you learn and you grow and you adapt and you shift it, because guess what? The algorithm and AI and the way that people discover you shifts all the time as well. What people were resonating with from a marketing perspective 12 months ago is very different to now. That's how quickly it is evolving. 12 months ago, it was pretty Canva curated slides on whether that's on Instagram, TikTok, whatever. Now it is, I'm sitting in the car about to pick my kids up from school and I've got an opinion on something, I'll send that out and then I'm off on my day. So it's very, very different. And, in 6 months' time, it'll be different again. So pick up the camera, have a crack, see how you go. You won't die, I promise.
Jacqui, I'll just add something to that. So in services marketing, one of the things that people want to understand are who are the people behind the brand. They don't come to you just for your brand. They want to know who are the people behind it. So one of the simple things that you can do is get a professional photography shoot done and get photographs of you and your team on the website. That's a very simple action, but it will give you enormous credibility straight from the start.
They don't have to be boring either if you don't want them to be. Have some fun with them.
No, it sounds like you bring your personality to everything. So does it? No, it does. And I think it's great. I think sometimes, we can feel a little bit flat. So if you're drawn to someone's energy, it sort of pulls you in, engaging. So I think, that's what I would anyway. But I've got a question here, and I think everyone needs to start somewhere. And the question was, if you were starting as a new broker or BDM today with little online presence, what would you focus on first? And I think we've either all been there or you're just starting out now. So, Colm?
I would start with the brand strategy. It doesn't start with social media and it doesn't start with your website. It starts with identifying who is your customer and what problem you are solving for them. That's where it starts. And only then, when you've built out a brand Bible, the words, the images that are going to represent you across the internet, then you build your website, and only then do you go to social media or do you go to Google Ads or SEO or whatever else you want to do. So it always starts with the brand.
And there's been another question as well, is how do you manage the people online that interact with your socials and opinions negatively, Kate?
I love a troll.
Your boxing gloves on.
I do have varying opinions on things that I post, and of course, whenever you talk about anything politically, everyone is on a political spectrum, right? And I don't ever put out that I am anywhere particular on that political spectrum, but other people like to make it known where they sit. And I tend to I'm never disrespectful ever. ever, 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 which can be difficult sometimes when people are saying some pretty awful things. But I just don't engage with them. Some of them get blocked. But the best thing is when other people jump in and argue with them for you. And but it does happen. It does happen. If you have an opinion, you have to be open to feedback on that opinion. And that's okay. Healthy, respectful, progressive debate helps everybody. Nastiness doesn't. They're the people who get blocked.
Well, thank you. I just want to say I got so much out of that session. I'm sure you did too. So today's discussion reinforces an important reality, really, that trust is increasingly formed before the first meeting, before the first phone call, and often before the client even submits an inquiry. The brokers who thrive on in the years ahead won't necessarily be the loudest online, will they? They'll be the ones who consistently demonstrate expertise, professionalism, and credibility wherever borrowers are looking, where you said where they're hanging out, whether it's Google, social media review platforms, or AI-generated search results. Please join me in thanking our panelists, please, for Mark, Kate, and Colm. And I do know that there's probably more questions. These guys are going to be out enjoying some of the lovely lunch that we've got just out through the doors. Please go and enjoy lunch. This afternoon, though, after lunch, you'll be back in the plenary here for a discussion with the ASIC discussion. Remember, our sponsors have been fantastic. Get to the Beyond Blue, please, and support those guys. See Jody there. Scan your QR code, all in the exhibition, to earn points for the major prize. Thank you so much. Thank you, the panelists, and we'll see you after lunch.
But think twice.